We must not allow our anger over the loss of Cliffjumper to impair our judgment. As of today, only we 5 Autobots remain on this Earth. We owe it to ourselves, to the memory of Cybertron, to any Autobots in any galaxy seeking safe harbor, to humankind. And we owe it to the memory of our fallen comrade, to survive. Arcee.
If Cliff's gone, standing around here sulking won't bring him back. So unless anyone minds, I think I'll get back to protecting humankind.
All things considered, it was pretty improbable that I ended up watching Transformers Prime. I never grew up watching the series because my family didn't have cable. I distinctly remember stumbling upon the series by way of a fan's music video edit, on Instagram of all places. Perhaps the only time Instagram's recommended reels have offered me anything of value. That said, I'm truly grateful for having discovered the series. It has likable protagonists, dynamic antagonists, and a serious plot and tone that I greatly appreciate, as well as some sound effects that have certainly aged well. Every incarnation of the Transformers series rises or falls by its characters. Despite the series' large cast, each character is given adequate focus and depth. Unless your name is Raph. But there's one character whose portrayal I particularly admire. But before we talk about her, I'd like to establish some context.
I don't think it's very controversial to claim that Hollywood has created a negative connotation with the term strong female character.
I don't have the information or time to explain why this trend has occurred, but I would like to explore how it impacts the writing. In many films, but primarily action films, this trope can be recognized by the character's physical dominance or aggressive temperament. A Hollywood brand strong female never wastes an opportunity to fight or belittle the hapless males around her, almost as if she has something to prove, either to her peers or herself. None of these traits are inherently bad to write into your character, but when the character has very little personality outside of these traits, it starts to become a problem. What bothers me most about this is that while character flaws are present in most of the examples shown, the narrative rarely presents these traits as flaws. Arrogance is framed as confidence, violent or rude tendencies are framed as attitude, and isolation is framed as independence. Do we not see the danger of such rebranding? For any audience of any gender, these are not the behaviors we should be modeling for our heroes. Not only is this a shallow form of feminism, it also makes for very poor character development. Every solid protagonist has to start out imperfect in order to have an arc, and some of my favorite moments in all of cinema are those in which such characters organically overcome their own flaws in this manner. It makes the character feel more real, while also solidifying the story's themes. And that's something that Transformers Prime does expertly. Optimus Prime is not the main protagonist of this series, but he is its ideological core. He's not depicted as relatable or human, rather he's an archetype. Orion Pax is flawed and naive, and therefore human. Optimus Prime is not, and that's done by design. Prime represents the selfless heroism for which the heroes strive, and even in his absence, his ideals inspire them to fight on, honorably. But that's not to say that the series doesn't have relatable characters. Arcee's character arc speaks to a universal truth. People deal with loss in different ways, but none of them are easy. After losing one of her closest friends at the series' beginning, she retreats into her shell, refusing to form bonds with anyone else. Her demeanor is stern and abrasive, but the crucial element here is that we're shown why. Arcee has a good reason for being as cold as she is, and because we witnessed the source of her pain, we still empathize with her even when she treats others harshly. But as much as she tries to convince herself otherwise, Arcee can't stop caring about people, and her quest to track down Cliffjumper's killer keeps her from finding internal peace. To her, letting go of this obsession would force her to accept the fact that her friend was truly gone.
And if that's the world we live in, so be it. But I just want you to know, I haven't given up. I'm gonna find the Khan who took you from us.
Her anger and denial are completely understandable, but it often drives a wedge between herself and the remaining friends she does have. When you're so unfulfilled and affected by trauma, it can be hard to consider anyone else's needs. And the more Arcee internalizes her emotions, the more bitter she becomes. There's a very important takeaway for the viewer in this. Arcee tells herself that she's getting payback for her friend, but in reality her goal is a selfish one. The simple fact is that she's in denial and wants to take out her anger on her enemy. She thinks that punishing the culprit will bring her some degree of relief, but this is a self-delusion. Even if she does finish off her friend's killer, she will suffer for as long as she holds on to this bitterness, and thus, the person that Arcee harms most in this pursuit is herself. By remaining stuck in the past, she denies happiness in the present. And it's only after finally confronting Starscream that Arcee realizes just how much bitterness has twisted her into a monster. She's only able to find true closure by accepting Cliff's death. For those in reality who have suffered this way, being told to get on with our lives can often feel disrespectful to the dead. But letting their loss ruin the rest of our lives isn't what our loved ones would want either. So how do we deal with such tragedy? Well, we don't forget those we've lost, but we do accept their passing, and accept that the future has good things in store for us as well. That's why the satisfying resolution of Arcee's character arc isn't her letting go of her hatred for Starscream. It's in her willingness to accept her friend's demise, and sharing his story with others. I'll admit, it's not the most original of character arcs, but I feel it's relevant when compared to other Hollywood females. What I love most about Arcee's characterization is how it brilliantly overturns the trope of strong female characters. In many of the cases discussed prior, a woman's strength is represented by a lack of vulnerability, a refusal to rely on others. Self-reliance and independence reign supreme. While these attitudes are not flawed on their own, taking them to their extreme results in a warped ideal. But Transformers Prime is smarter than that. By way of Arcee's growth, the series reveals that such refusal to open up to others and trust is at its root driven by fear, whether it be fear of disapproval or fear of losing another loved one in another tragedy. What is it, Hollywood, that's so empowering about fear? Again, it's not a problem for women to be portrayed as confident or powerful, but they do need to be portrayed as human. True strength is found in owning up to your flaws and working to overcome them. Crafting an unattainable, godlike character with no flaws to speak of is hardly inspiring. But a character arc, when planned and executed properly, is a beautiful thing. None of us are perfect, but the best of us try to move forward. Women deserve good writing too. And I hope that all aspiring writers can learn from the example of Transformers Prime. Thanks for watching. I really love this show, and I hope I offered you some valuable perspective on it. Comment down below, what's a female character that you really relate to? Until next time, keep thinking critically.